A tumultuous rise, Idi Amin's ascent to power. Idi Amin Dada, a towering figure with a powerful presence, remains one of Africa's most controversial leaders. Born in 1925 in what is now Koboko, Uganda, Amin's early life remains shrouded in mystery. He received limited formal education and joined the British colonial army, the King's African Rifles, in 1946. Here he quickly rose through the ranks, displaying both physical prowess as a heavyweight boxing champion and brutality in suppressing the Mau Mau uprising in Kenya. By 1962, when Uganda gained independence, Amin had reached the rank of Deputy Commander of the Ugandan Army. He forged a close relationship with the newly elected Prime Minister Milton Obote. However, this alliance crumbled as Amin grew increasingly powerful and ambitious. In 1971, while Obote was attending a Commonwealth summit in Singapore, Amin seized power in a military coup, ushering in an era of authoritarian rule that would last for 8 turbulent years. Amin's rise to power was swift and decisive. He capitalized on existing ethnic tensions within the army and exploited the political vulnerabilities of Obote's government. His coup was met with mixed reactions, with some celebrating the overthrow of Obote's increasingly autocratic regime. However, the early optimism surrounding Amin's takeover would soon give way to fear and uncertainty as the true nature of his rule became apparent. Amin's initial actions as head of state seemed to promise a return to stability and order. He released political prisoners, lifted press censorship temporarily, and promised to hold free and fair elections. However, these early gestures proved to be a facade, a calculated attempt to consolidate power and appease international critics. Behind the veneer of populism, Amin was already laying the groundwork for a brutal dictatorship that would leave an indelible mark on Uganda's history. Early days and popularity, a new era for Uganda. In the immediate aftermath of the coup, Amin enjoyed a considerable degree of popular support. Many Ugandans, particularly those from the northern regions, welcomed the overthrow of Obote, whom they perceived as increasingly authoritarian and favoring his own ethnic group. Amin, with his charisma and promises of a return to traditional values, was seen as a liberator by some. Amin played on his image as a man of the people. He often appeared in public wearing military fatigues or traditional robes, projecting an image of strength and accessibility. He abolished the intelligence service established by Obote, which was widely viewed as a tool of oppression. He also reached out to traditional leaders, seeking their endorsement and solidifying his power base. Amin's early economic policies were also popular with certain segments of the population. He expelled Asian traders who had dominated the Ugandan economy since colonial times and redistributed their businesses and properties to black Ugandans. This move, while economically disastrous in the long run, resonated with those who had felt marginalized under the previous regime. However, the initial euphoria surrounding Amin's rule was short-lived. As months turned into years, the cracks in his regime began to show. The economy, deprived of the Asian community's entrepreneurial skills and capital, went into a tailspin. Amin's promises of democracy proved hollow, as he consolidated power and brutally suppressed any form of opposition. The very qualities that had initially endeared him to some, his charisma, his decisiveness, his connection to traditional values, would soon morph into the instruments of his tyranny. Military expansion and reorganization asserting Amin's authority. Central to Amin's grip on power was his control of the military. Recognizing the importance of a loyal and well-equipped armed forces, Amin embarked on a program of military expansion and reorganization. He increased the size of the army, promoting soldiers from his own ethnic group, the Kakwa, and other tribes loyal to him. Amin purged the officer corps of those he perceived as disloyal, often replacing them with individuals with little or no military experience. This led to a decline in professionalism and discipline within the ranks. Corruption became rampant, with soldiers often engaging in extortion and violence against civilians with impunity. To equip his expanding army, Amin sought arms and training from foreign powers. He initially enjoyed close ties with the United Kingdom, which had supplied weapons to Uganda since independence. However, as Amin's human rights abuses mounted, the UK distanced itself. Undeterred, Amin turned to other sources, including the Soviet Union, Libya, and North Korea, which were eager to gain influence in the region. Amin's military ambitions extended beyond Uganda's borders. In 1978, he launched a disastrous invasion of neighboring Tanzania, ostensibly to reclaim a strip of land along the border. The Tanzanian army, backed by Ugandan exiles and anti-Amin rebels, repulsed the invasion and counterattacked, eventually driving Amin from power and forcing him into exile. Section 4. Economic policies, a shift in control and its consequences. Amin's economic policies were characterized by a combination of populism, economic nationalism, and sheer mismanagement. One of his most consequential decisions was the expulsion of Uganda's Asian population in 1972. Accusing them of exploiting the country's wealth, Amin gave Asians 90 days to leave, seizing their businesses and properties. The expulsion of Asians had a devastating impact on the Ugandan economy. Asians had played a vital role in commerce, industry, and agriculture. Their departure left a void that could not be filled, causing economic activity to plummet. Their businesses and farms redistributed to Amin's cronies were often mismanaged, leading to further decline. Amin's economic policies were also characterized by a lack of planning and fiscal discipline. He nationalized numerous industries, including banking, insurance, and transportation, but without the managerial expertise to run them effectively. Government spending spiraled out of control, fueling inflation and exacerbating the economic crisis. The combination of Amin's disastrous economic policies and his brutal repression led to the collapse of Uganda's economy. By the late 1970s, the country was facing severe shortages of basic goods, hyperinflation, and widespread unemployment. This economic ruin further fueled social unrest and contributed to the eventual downfall of his regime. Section 5. Social reforms and cultural identity, Amin's vision for Uganda. Beyond his economic and military policies, Idi Amin also sought to reshape Ugandan society according to his own vision. A key aspect of this was his emphasis on cultural identity and traditional values. Amin positioned himself as a champion of indigenous cultures, often appearing in public wearing traditional robes and headwear. He promoted traditional music and dance, sponsoring cultural festivals and performances. Amin also sought to revive traditional justice systems, encouraging the use of customary courts alongside the formal legal system. While these measures resonated with some, particularly in rural areas, they also raised concerns about the erosion of the rule of law and the potential for abuse. Amin's social reforms extended to the education sector. He sought to reduce the influence of Western educational models, promoting instead an emphasis on practical skills and vocational training. Amin also encouraged the use of Swahili as a national language, alongside English, in an effort to promote national unity. However, Amin's efforts to reshape Ugandan society were often overshadowed by his regime's brutality and repression. His government targeted intellectuals, academics, and professionals, seeing them as potential threats to his rule. Many were imprisoned, tortured, or forced into exile, leading to a brain drain that further hampered Uganda's development. Section 6. Infrastructure and development, ambitious projects, uncertain outcomes. Despite the economic turmoil that characterized much of his rule, Idi Amin's regime undertook a number of ambitious infrastructure and development projects. Recognizing the importance of transportation networks, Amin invested in road construction and improvements, particularly in rural areas. He also oversaw the expansion of Entebbe International Airport, hoping to make Uganda a regional transportation hub. Amin's government invested in the construction of hospitals and health centers, aiming to improve access to healthcare, particularly in underserved areas. However, these efforts were hampered by a shortage of qualified medical personnel, many of whom had fled the country or been victims of Amin's purges. In an attempt to modernize Uganda's agricultural sector, Amin launched a series of initiatives aimed at boosting agricultural production. These included the distribution of land to Ugandan farmers following the expulsion of Asians and the promotion of cash crops such as coffee and cotton. However, these efforts were often poorly planned and mismanaged, failing to achieve their intended goals and contributing to the decline of the agricultural sector. Amin's infrastructure and development projects were often characterized by a lack of transparency and accountability. Corruption was rampant, with funds earmarked for development projects, often diverted to personal accounts or used to enrich Amin's cronies. As a result, many of these projects were never completed or failed to deliver the promised benefits to the Ugandan people.